Welcome to the Innovation Engineer podcast, where we talk about the hottest trends in tech. In today's episode, we have a special guest, Henrike Hedel. She is the head of tech program at FreeTech Academy and recently returned from a trip through Israel. Plus, she's a fan of nerdy mugs. In fact, when COVID first started out, she made a series of Instagram posts featuring her particular mug of the day. She's a huge space nerd, building Lego models of the ISS and even tried to become an astronaut herself. And the question we ask her today is, will Israel be the next Silicon Valley?
3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Innovation Engineer podcast, your favorite place for picking brains of your favorite engineers. So grab your nerdiest mug, fill it with your beverage of choice and enjoy. My name is Waschi.
My name is Henrike.
And today we ask ourselves, will Israel be the next Silicon Valley? But first questions first. Henrike, who are you? And actually, where's Tarek?
I wanted to ask you this question. Usually when I'm in podcast, Tarek is on the other side of the camera. So I'm wondering myself where he is.
Yeah, maybe we should ask him in the next podcast. But when I talked about him, he said, I cannot say anything about Israel and I don't want to be the third guy who's just asking dumb questions. You know, there are some podcast formats where you have three people, like an expert and a good interviewer, and then a third person who's just there to ask stupid questions like, oh, I don't know anything about it, so tell me in detail, you know?
That could have been entertaining as well, right?
Yeah, I know. I told him it's the best if you have a third person who can ask dumb questions, because normally two people know too much about a topic, and then they are like talking on a way too high level. So some listeners may not understand what they're talking about because the foundation is actually missing, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to talk about Israel today, right? So first,
yes.
My beverage of choice today is blueberry juice mixed with sparkling water, done with a soda stream. I have a soda stream at home, like any German. Germans love like juice with sparkling water in there. It's like a German thing. And what I learned when I did a little bit extra research for our episode today, soda stream is a product from Israel.
No, really?
Yes, I thought it was like a typical German product invented in Germany, but it's not.
If you now tell me also that the Brita water thingy is also from Israel, then I'm mind blown. This is also such a typical German thing in my eyes.
I have that one too.
Yes.
I have that one too. Yeah, I don't know actually where it's from. I need to research it. Yeah, but you just returned from Israel actually. You are on a journey in Israel, right?
Exactly, yeah. Well, maybe first of all, because I haven't answered your first question, who am I? And what's in my mug? So I'm Henrike. We know each other for quite a while. So for the audience, I'm working for Axel Springer for the FreeTech Academy to be specific, and I'm leading the tech program there. And that's also the reason why I had the honor to travel to Israel to take part in a tech journey. And first of all, this is like my nerdiest mug. It's the Star Wars Christmas Carol singers. I thought it can't get any nerdier than that.
That's one super infamous, actually.
And it's filled with hot chocolate.
Ah, okay.
Basically.
Yeah. So I already had like 3 cups of coffee. Normally I drink coffee, a lot of coffee, but it's today later in the afternoon, so no coffee for me anymore.
Yeah, that was also the struggle. Do I have another coffee or do I have a hot chocolate? And now I have hot chocolate has guarana in it, which is kind of caffeine. Anyway, it's awesome. So little unpaid advertising at this point. But yeah.
Yeah, we will put an affiliate link into the show notes, right?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay, so I also worked for Axel Springer. And Axel Springer has quite some deep roots in Israel. So it was one of the founding principles to support the state of Israel. The billionaire wife of Axel Springer, who now owns the majority of Axel Springer, his company, actually his third wife, I think, also donates so much money to Israel. And there is so much of like different foundations which support Israel. So that's why I also was on a journey to learn about innovation and the VC scene in Israel in, forgot 2017 or 18, so like quite some years ago. And I also was the supervisor for a bachelor degrees project, which was innovation factors in Israel. And obviously, this is the Innovation Engineer podcast. So if you talk about innovation in Europe, like Israel is the place to go and very important that everyone talks about it here. So the question is, that's a claim they actually have. They call themselves Silicon Wadi even. They want to be the next Silicon Valley. So what do you think? Are they going to be the next Silicon Valley?
Aren't they already kind of? I mean, to be honest, I've read about that also just briefly before I went on this trip, because I realized I do not know enough about this country at this point. I was excited to go there, and I always planned to go there, even like on a private trip, because I was so interested in the culture, and I knew this is kind of, Israel is the innovation hotspot, full stop. And then I was like, okay, like let's do like a little bit of research up front, and it was everywhere, no matter where you look, it's already kind of claimed that it is the Silicon Wadi. And once you're there and you get in touch with these different startups, and even not if you just talk to entrepreneurs, if you just talk to anyone, and you kind of get an understanding for their mindset and how they act, how they like their daily life, it's kind of, there's a different mentality and a different spirit. And I kind of feel they already are the Silicon Valley. If you compare this to, I don't know, other European cities or countries, basically. I don't know, what was your perception back in 2017 or whenever?
Yeah, my first feeling was the same. So I also, like, everyone gets this book, the Startup Nation book, quite. This is like, you just go onto a plane to like Israel, they hand out the book. It's like, oh, you need to read this book. This is like more like a marketing book, like a tourist guide, than it's actually a book. So I read it. I also watched then the documentation from Wired. So they produced this 3-part documentation about the same topic with the same name. And then later, I was a supervisor for this bachelor project. And nowadays, I have mixed feelings. So yes, it was quite mind-blowing when I was there and when I learned how they worked. And later in my career, I also worked with multiple people from Israel and had more experiences. But still, it sometimes feels like it's part marketing. And the other thing is, what products are from Israel? So now with the Ukraine war, there are so many big companies and SaaS tools, software as a service tools I use where, yeah, we are from Ukraine, please support us. And I'm like, okay, at least 4 different products I use on a nearly daily basis are from the Ukraine. And
which one?
Which products? So you mean from the Ukraine?
Yeah, that you have. You said that you use in your daily life, right?
Yeah, I need to check it out. But it was multiple SaaS tools when they sent out like newsletters. We are from Ukraine. We need your support. I forgot which it were in detail, but it will look it up. But then I searched as preparation for this podcast for products coming from Israel. So I know this one super famous, maybe you can remember it, ICQ, right?
Oh, yeah.
Did you use it?
No, I was MSN Messenger. You'd had those 2 groups, ICQ and MSN, and I was on the MSN side.
Yes, I had both to like talk with everyone in my class, actually.
Okay.
So, but then later I learned that ICQ is like the famous startup from Israel, which was later sold for $200 million, which started this innovation hype. So this was like the first big exit from Israel, and they realized, oh, you can make that much money from selling like a small tech company with some employees.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I looked it up. So I only found like Wix, which is this website builder, right? And the SodaStream. No other famous product I found I even heard of. So it's true also for the other years. So if I think about other countries, there are different things which jump into your mind. Products coming like Spotify as a very big and successful product, and others and so on. But if you think about Israel, for the amount of venture capital they have, that's also a thing I looked up, and also how much they claim to be an innovative country, there are not that much super famous internet companies coming from it, actually.
That's a valid point. I think, to me also, if I think about products, Wix comes to mind, and Tiva, actually. But that could also just be the case because probably they told us about that in Israel as well. But that was like the second one that, like pops up, the pharmaceutical company. But yeah, maybe it's more that they kind of, instead of becoming like big companies or having like their products themselves on the market, that they become features in other companies' product portfolio. And then it's kind of not that obvious anymore that this is kind of a Israel thing, but in there, they also drive innovation somehow, but it's not that obvious.
But this is also a thing I realized. People from Israel and Israeli companies are not sustainable. They only work towards the exit. They are not interested in having a long-running product, long-running company. That's not their goal. They want kind of big success. That's what they do. And if it's not successful within a year, they just switch to something else. They are like super driven, super hungry for innovation, but also they are not in there for the long game, for the long run. I think what you said is total right, but this is like part of the Israeli culture.
Yeah, maybe it's also then that it's more hungry for ideas or something. Because I mean, it's also beautifully written in the book, I think, like when they have an idea or like when they thinking about building a company, they do it the next day. Like they do not like we would do it, like talk to several people, like challenging the idea, ideate for a couple of months, even talk to investors. And then at one point you're kind of, okay, now I have the courage and I'm motivated and I'm starting my company. They do it like the next day and it's going like that. But as fast as they build the company, as you say, then it's already the exit and they start another project kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, and why do you think that is?
That's a good question. I don't know. They really fast pace probably in everything they do due to different factors when you live in Israel. From like after school, the whole military experience they get from there. Okay, start a family, like or college, family, bam, bam, bam. Still very structured and a lot of experience they gain in a very short amount of time, and then they just continue in that pace, maybe.
Yeah, that's a good bullet point. I also thought about like the environment they live in. So
yeah, totally.
They often say we are surrounded by enemies. I think this is a very bad attitude, by the way, but that's what I heard and what I heard other Israelis say. But this is like a feeling of, okay, we are getting rockets shot at us like on a daily basis. We we not live in fear, but we expect terrorists. So when I was there was a terrorist attack. There were like 2 Palestinian people going nearly on a suicide mission, and they were shot by Israeli soldiers with machine guns at the place where I was like 10 minutes before. I walked there through Jerusalem, actually, and both were shot, actually. And I think when you grow up in this environment where everything is uncertain, when you have a history of uncertainty, when you are like uncertain if your state will be, like your whole country will be in war like next month, when you don't know if this will happen, this does something to you. So everything is more short-lived. So they just live by this, okay, I don't know what the next day is. I accept just today and live by the rules of today and don't think about tomorrow. That's why they don't think about long-term success.
Yeah. And then also, like right from the start, because they know that no matter what kind of product or business they jump into, their market is super, super small. So right from the start, they really think big and how can we scale it and to which other markets we can sell it then. So because most of them are then outside of Israel, obviously. But yeah, I totally agree also with what you said. It's like this constant uncertainty and danger, which is around them.
Yeah, so Israel has 8.8 million citizens living in Israel. So obviously the domestic market is super small, so you cannot really build the biggest businesses in there. So they think more international from the beginning. That's definitely a point. And one thing is we had like Yad Shtaim is like an Israeli company owned by Axel Springer. And when I was there and talked with them, they also told me stories about Israeli culture. So they told me what they often say is, oh gosh, we need more meetings. That's a thing you will not hear in any other European country.
Why do they need more meetings?
Because Israelis have a tendency, because of all these cultural things we just talked about, to just start with stuff. They don't talk with their colleagues. They don't inform others. They just start. Obviously, if you're in a bigger company full of people who are maybe very innovative and very good at what they do, but very bad at communication, and they just start stuff. So like 3 different teams in a company started the same things. That's how they do. They get an idea. The next day, the team jumps onto it. This has various negative effects, obviously, if you are like in a different product cycle. So you have a well-running product, you need other things.
That is true. Which is also funny because I don't think they need that much meetings then anyway, because they also know each other. Like everybody knows everybody kind of in Israel because they're so small. So once they start having a phone call with someone about their idea, they would very quickly get to know if like someone else is already working on it or not, because it's very like a small community in general.
The story is they need more meetings because they don't talk to each other and everyone just starts working. So they need more alignment. That's what they miss a lot.
Yeah. But and then I thought they could get this alignment super quickly because they are such a small community and basically everybody knows everybody in Israel. So in the end, they maybe need 1 or 2 phone calls and they would know if somebody else is already working on their idea or not.
But that's like just part of the cultural things you see in Israel. And there are like 3 other things I saw in Israel where they have specific words for it. The first thing is tacheles. So that's a term they have. And the Israelis I met and worked with, so they all, like there are like 3 different Israelis I worked with and others I met through different things. And they all have different things in common. First of all is tacheles, speaking what is directly in your mind. Normally Germans are very straightforward, but not as straightforward as Israelis are.
But we still have the word tacheles in our dictionary, because I wasn't aware until I was in Israel that it's actually a Hebrew word. I didn't know that. I was like, oh, I know that word. I understand that.
Yeah, me too. There was even in Berlin, there was even a building called Tacheles, full of artists and so on.
Yeah, and there will soon be a Swedish photo gallery will take over this building in later this year.
Cool. It would be cooler if it would be like an Israeli art, whatever.
Yeah, I know that would fit into this podcast now, but as kind of a Swede by heart kind of fangirl, I'm really looking forward to it because it's the best also photo gallery if you're in Stockholm.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And the other 2 words are balagan. It's like a mess, like a chaos where you don't know what actually is going on. That's like how they describe themselves. That's also what I experienced at Yad Stein. That's how companies partially operate. So they're not very organized in other parts. And the third thing is my favorite, actually. It's chutzpah. So it's like super boldness. You cannot really translate it. And I've experienced it firsthand. Some Israelis are so full of them, not full of themselves, that sounds negative, but so direct and full of energy that they are like super bold. I have seen it in colleagues just going over the superior and was like, okay, in Germany, sometimes hierarchy is important. So normally, if your superior says no, you don't just go to the superior to get your idea approved. Yeah. But that's a thing a lot of, I saw multiple Israelis do actually.
Yeah, and it's like not perceived rude or like offensive or something. It's totally normal to, even from the start, sometimes you do not even go to your manager directly, but already jump over him in the first place because he's not the right one to talk to. I don't know. And it would be totally fine. Something that we cannot really imagine in our daily life. Oh.
Yeah, but this is, I really liked it. So I personally on the scale of how direct you can be in your communication, I'm even for a German on the far edge actually already. So if I work with people coming from Israel, that's like just my thing to do actually. That's why I really became friends with some of them because like it's the same wavelengths I have. And I would say, okay, I really would like to work for an Israeli company because they operate in a similar way than I do.
Yeah. But also like very direct. And what I, looking back at the week there, observed very open and transparent, no matter, there is no wrong question in the first place. Like even if what you think, like talking about the conflict there or talking about religious topic where we would hear me maybe careful, like, can I ask that question? Is that too personal, too intimate or something?
Yeah.
No, you can ask anything, no matter whom you talk to. And and they answer you like also full transparent. So this way of communication and not just in the business context, like in any context, I found quite refreshing kind of, because it really was out of my comfort zone as well sometimes to ask questions about their religion or certain traditions or anything, where here I would be like, is that okay to ask? I don't know.
Would you say this is like one of the points why they are more innovative? Because for innovation, you need maybe different things than for a long-lasting company. So
probably, I mean, it's not so much. No, there are no secrets. There's not like hiding. It's like full transparency right from the start, and don't have this. Because if you talk to other people and they then directly give you honest feedback, you can really come up with something unique and innovative instead of like just having someone like, because they like you, saying like, oh, great idea, Waschi. Yeah, you should do that. And in their mind, they're like, oh, I heard this idea thousands of times and oh my gosh, no, he will fail, but he's my friend. I want to support him. So I tell him like, yeah, go for it. Like this,
yeah.
I don't think this will ever happen there. So in that regard, you have probably faster new innovations or like stop non-innovations in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very, very valid point. I'm also thinking about like innovation from terms of venture capital, because that's what you normally need. And it's a good indicator to see how entrepreneurial people are. And I looked the numbers up. So Germany, at some point in the past, spent like half the money in or like venture capital. It was in Germany for 2021, $8.4 billion US dollars. And in Israel, it was $1.7 billion. So yes, that's a big difference. But if you compare the numbers from per capita, like per citizen, Israel is number 2 in Europe. So it's like they nearly spent 5 times as much on venture capital compared to Germany per citizen.
Yeah.
That's a big number. They are number 2 in I think number 2 worldwide. It was even worldwide. Singapore is the only country where you get more venture capital or easier per capita. That's a big number.
That says a lot. I mean, it totally makes sense. Just what comes to my mind is that if you compare it like in the corporates you work in, like maybe not Axel Springer, they're still quite good when it comes to also invest in new ideas and new products and stuff like that on that level. But other corporates I work for, like the innovation department was basically a one-man show. And they like active in several countries in Europe or the world. And then like innovation is such a, unimportant part of it, which is crazy. But if you compare it to the numbers, like how much we as a country invest in this, totally makes sense.
Yeah, and this is an important part. It's also part of the book where they talk about what does the government actually do. So they saw that Israel, they don't have much other resources and so on. So they concentrated on technology and like getting a system where you could easily get venture capital for your ideas, where it's easier to fund a company to create a new product. That's like a big part of being obviously innovative, because I could imagine that there are other countries where the people have a similar culture maybe to Israel, but they lack the venture capital system, because that's what makes it even possible for so many people to create a new company, that they get the money to create this.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And there's one other point I think we need to talk about, the military.
Yeah.
So how was your experience, and what did you actually learn when you were in Israel about how important the military there is?
Well, it's everywhere. Like you go down the street, do your shopping here and there, and the people with the machine guns, like just casually walking by. I mean, they're not in their military outfits. They're like dressed casually, but they all have their machine guns and stuff with them, which is something you're not used to when you're from Germany. It's not like that when you walk down the shopping streets here. So that was something. And then also the people who were with us on this trip from Israel, who kind of organized it with us, they also had a military background. They were openly sharing that, and also had like their little guns with them hidden under their shirt and stuff. So kind of having probably like a double role in being our tour guides, but also being like there for our safety. And they did not make that, or did not set that in our face, but it was kind of, okay, yeah, this is part of their daily life, which is unusual for us.
Yeah. And I was also in the military for like 9 months and doing my basic training, and it was super boring. So did I learn anything there? No. But in Israel, the people I talked to, so I was at Magna Ventures, at Microsoft, at a startup incubator from a German company there, at Google. So, and it's a CyberSpark for cybersecurity, and some other companies. The companies, obviously, Axel Springer owned by the time, and with it them. And what a lot of people told me, they all had military backgrounds, and a lot of founders, they come from special units actually in the military. And they said, okay, it felt for me like what they told me, it's like a small bachelor degree. So going to the military in Israel means you're like going to school, kind of.
Yeah, and also beautifully explained in the book that we advertised several times, like how the people you are with during your military time, like you will stick with them for the rest of your life. Like they have a really strong bond. And this is like then to your benefit business-wise when you know like decided together building a company or whatever, but also in your private personal life. Because when we also had like a Shabbat dinner with a Jewish family, you probably also had that back then. I'm not.
You need to do it. It's like part of the culture there.
Such a special evening, and the family we visited, both of them, because also women are by law, I don't know, in the military, like all of them do this, and they met there. So this is also how they explained it, kind of, we go to university and maybe have like dating experience, meet our partner, or, you know, like have this kind of experience, and they have that in the military. So, and they're still together since then, and this is kind of their dating environment as well, like the dating platform, basically, which I also found quite interesting.
So I think the US military is different in various regards. First of all, you go there only if you want to. So there is no real call of duty, which like kind of we have like this basic training you need to go through, or like in Israel, it's not, I would not call it basic training. It's 3 years, wasn't it? It's like really long.
3 years even, I think.
Wow.
2 or 3.
Yeah, so it's a very long time you're actually in the military compared to the 9 months I went. And in the US, it's like more like if you want to go there, then it's a standing army, right? You go there. And you also have a different system in there. I think the Israel military is small, but also very innovative in that they have the same mentality as like you have in the rest of Israel. It's not that hierarchic, and they share information very openly, and you get a lot of technology training, right?
Yeah, and a lot of responsibility right from the start, because they, due to the missing hierarchy, even the newest soldier can take over very important missions, or, you know, like projects that they have to do, which I don't think was the case in your 9 months at the military. Like, what were you actually able to decide anything?
No. I was a worm, actually. So they treat you that way. So you get stupid tasks like, okay, in Germany, in the military, you don't have anything to do. You also don't get very much. You get basic training for like your physical endurance and so on, and how to operate weapons, like for 3 months. And then you have 6 months doing nothing. So, and when like an officer came by and saw it, they gave you a toothbrush and say, okay, clean this, clean that. So I cleaned a whole stairway completely with a toothbrush, and I even cleaned with my comrades a tank with a toothbrush, because we had nothing to do. That's what you do in the military in Germany.
Yeah, and it couldn't be more different to, I think, what's the reality for them in Israel.
Yeah, I think giving young people responsibility really helps them to also learn for the future, to create a company or create a product and be a little bit braver, because they need to be, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we were back to the risk-taking kind of discussion we had earlier today. And it's, instead of thinking, okay, what can go wrong? What are the risks? They're more like, okay, what can be the benefit from there? It's like different way how they approach things, I guess.
Yeah. What else did you actually learn in Israel?
Oh my gosh. I like so many things, to be honest, because I mean, these 6 days were so packed with different kind of things that we did. So we did not only visit tech companies like you also did, and had Shabbat dinner, which is like a completely different field, like experiences, the religion and the food. But what I think was the most interesting thing was when we discussed the conflict, the Israel-Palestine conflict. And we spent one day really just talking about this topic. And we went to Ramallah, to the West Bank, and had a tour guide who was from Palestine, who we talked to. And then kind of 2 hours later, we met with an Israeli army, ex-army general, and talked, listened to his perspective on this whole conflict. And as you can imagine, it was like 180-degree different. They talked about the same situations. They had somehow similar examples of what are the problems in this country, but like from completely different perspectives. And we were like in the middle, like, oh my gosh, like I realized how I do not know enough about this. And it's very one-sided what we get to know here in our media, if there's coverage, because it's kind of a topic that we know all our life, because it's going on for decades. And it's like this constant buzz. Yeah, there's another attack, something in the West Bank. And you're not, it's like, okay, but you cannot really put that into a context or anything anymore. And being there, I learned so much about how this affects the daily life of the individuals. Simple things as traveling from Jerusalem out to the West Bank and back and forth, and how this is obviously not an easy thing to do, and how it depends the status that you have, whether you have a permanent address in Jerusalem or not, and how this affects like the how do you say that, the privileges you have, kind of stuff like that. And then realizing, okay, I do not know enough about this, and I probably never will get it in full, in its full complexity, because it's just so hard to grab, and it's probably not, we cannot solve this. It's just too, it's going on for too long, and this whole like political and religious aspects that come together and that you cannot separate from each other in this situation there just makes it kind of unsolvable. And that was really a tough day, realizing all that by talking to these people and getting these perspectives. So that was probably the biggest learning for me.
That's also the reason why I think Israel will never be the next Silicon Valley. So this conflict poses a permanent kind of danger, like rockets raining down on different cities. Yes, they have their Iron Dome and like anti-missile systems, but still, like infrastructure is an important point, and reliability and like the political system and stability for like investment in other countries, and also for attracting people coming there, right? And with this conflict, the bad press and so on. And when I went from Berlin to Israel by airplane, there was a tank outside of the airplane protecting the airplane. And they have so much security in there. And the thing is, Israel is not an open country. So they don't accept many people. And it's way easier to go 10 times to the US than going once to Israel, because they will look so much into your personal stuff. I need to show my emails because I went there for work reasons. They wanted emails. They even, if I call your colleague, will he tell me the same story? That's what he asked me. There's no joke. And one colleague who flew with me, they took his hand baggage and he needed to put everything, dress down, put everything on the table. And then they did it a second time. So there are 2 security gates done by Israeli, I don't know if they are military, but by Israeli people who do it twice before you actually enter the plane. So, and the thing with the Silicon Valley in the US is that it's open worldwide. You get talent from China, from India, from Germany. That's the place where everyone goes. It's open for everyone. It's really multicultural melting pot, actually, also technology-wise. Everyone who works in IT dreams of going to the Silicon Valley and working there. This will never happen.
And they can do. Yeah, and you're so right. That's a totally valid point. Because we then also made kind of fun when we left the country, because you also have to go through a lot of security when you want to leave again. And because you were talking about Yatztaim before as well, like they have a crazy brand awareness in the country. Like 98% of Israelis, they know Yatztaim. They like everywhere. So we were like, okay, like when they ask us where we were, we of course said we visited Yatztaim, because then they're like, oh, we know Yatztaim. And like they're all fans of Yatztaim. So that was like the golden ticket to leave the country, basically. Yeah, which is just like a little fun fact, but it's really hard to enter and to leave. And yeah, I agree with you. This is the biggest difference probably compared to Silicon Valley. And yeah.
The thing is, I think most Europeans, like from France, Germany, Belgium, would not feel safe enough to actually work in Tel Aviv, for example. It's not open for the Arabic world, I would say. I'm not sure about Africa, but it's also, I can't remember people from China actually there, like people from Asia. So Israel is kind of a little bit a walled garden. So yes, they have the culture, they have the systems, they have great talents. The talent density, because of the military, because they focus so much on tech, is really high. I think the school system is also very good. I heard that the universities are ranked on the international ranking very high. But still, to really be in the next Silicon Valley, it's not enough to be in your domestic market very innovative. They're just not open enough to the world.
Yeah, kind of true. But what was for you back then, like the week you spent there, the first one, the biggest mind-blowing kind of learning or insight that you gained, where like now looking back, okay, this was a surprise, or I don't know.
Obviously, one point is definitely the same thing you said, the conflict. So obviously everyone has an opinion on it, but when you go there, you actually learn you're not entitled to have an opinion. I saw a marketing movie for the Israel side and for the Palestine side, like day and night different story. Fun fact, it was produced by the same company. So the same like video producing and marketing company as a contract work produced those movies. This is like really crazy. The other point is, I never thought much about innovation factors and how you can be innovative and about cultural differences. So I thought, yes, I worked in a department also focusing on creating new projects, creating new brands, new products. That's what I worked for by the time. And when I was in Israel, I learned, okay, you miss so much stuff actually, so that you are like tackling it totally wrong. That was very inspiring. Also to hear the stories, how they just are brave enough. So one of my friends, before he founded his company, he was 6 months thinking about what he should do, how to get a co-founder and so on. So I even started making jokes that he will never start his own company. That much time he actually took to prepare. So, and then you see someone in Israel who has a great idea and starts the next day, like you said. And the other point was visiting Magma Ventures and talking with one of the senior partners, how they actually invest in companies. By the time I didn't know much about venture capital, how it works, and I learned so much in there. So many cool stuff.
Yeah. Also how to make shakshuka, or what did you learn in your cooking class?
I didn't have a cooking class. We ate shakshuka multiple times because it's like a traditional dish. So I made it at home multiple times because I was so flashed by the food there. Also hummus. I make it my own. I even make tahini myself nowadays. So like completely, I buy sesame seeds and like the hummus stuff. How is it actually called?
Chickpeas.
Yeah, right, chickpeas. Yeah. And like do everything from scratch.
yeah, it's a different level. And the food in itself, like, I mean, that was definitely one of the best things also about this trip, because I really love Israeli food even before I went there. So that was obviously heaven. What I found really, really funny and really interesting, like always when we went to the restaurant and our Israeli tour guide, they ordered the food for us. And once they brought it all out, the tapas, we started eating and it was so good, but they never stopped bringing us food, like in such a fast pace. And it was like impossible to eat all of it, but we wanted to because it was so yummy, and it was like continuous cycle. And up to the point where some of us had to hold like the hummus in one hand, eating with the others, because the table there was no space left anymore. And that was always like best experiences.
I guess it was in Tel Aviv, right?
Also in Jerusalem, but or like on our way to Jerusalem and in Tel Aviv, yeah.
Yeah. So if we talk about the Silicon Valley experience, for me it's completely bundled with Tel Aviv. So there is even the saying you go for preaching and so on.
That was in the hostel, right?
Yes.
Jerusalem prays, Tel Aviv plays.
Yeah. That was. Anything else you experienced there?
Where to stop, honestly. There was so much. I think what was, I mean, I already mentioned the Shabbat dinner and the Shabbat service at the Western Wall. That was also quite interesting to observe the energy in Jerusalem, in the old city, on a Friday. That was special. And as I said, the family, the two couple, like the couple who met in the military, they were there with their children, and she was a professional singer. So when they then did they did all the singing that is part of the dinner ceremony. Oh my God. We were, and a lot of wine. L'chaim.
Yeah.
We all had goosebumps. That was, I don't know, that was such a intense and emotional experience. I think that stuck with all of us. And I mean, it was the same day, maybe that also add up on that. It was the same day that we went to Yad Vashem, which is also something I think everyone should do when they are in Jerusalem.
Yeah, the Holocaust Remembrance Museum.
Exactly. That was really, really interesting. Although, I mean, we all in school, we talk about this, we visit concentration camps. This is some part of our history that we really learn a lot about. But being in that place and visiting this memorial site, which has such a, I think, so much more information even compact in that one place, and somehow provided in a very personal way with a lot of personal stories that you read when you go through there. Really, that makes something with you, especially when you're there as a German. We cannot, shy away from our history, and but it's important that I think you go there and experience that yourself. So this then together with the religious kind of spiritual evening, that was a very exhausting day, but in a very positive way, kind of.
Did you actually take anything with you from Israel where you say, okay, I need to incorporate this into my work life or my personal life?
My personal life, doing like hummus myself and more shakshuka in my life.
That's always good. That's always a good idea.
Definitely. For my work life, I mean, in general, a lot of people that I want to continue to talk to, but I think you're going more in that direction, like me personally, how I would change like my work. I don't think I have something, and now from the top of my head, I don't know what I would want to incorporate. Maybe being more upfront and also being more tacheles minded when talking about ideas and these creative processes.
It's hard to do actually, and if you are in the culture where everyone has the same cultural coinage as you have, where you come from, like this thing, we are a big enterprise, that's how everything works. It's hard to try to change the system. So like, I tried the same, and like after some weeks you fall back into old patterns.
Exactly, yeah.
But that's also what I wanted to do. So the stories about like people going over their superior and just believing in ideas so much that they didn't accept a no from their direct superior because they think this is the thing we need to do as a company and really fighting for it. That's a thing I took with me, and I really tried to incorporate into my daily life. Obviously, you need to be kind to your superiors, so don't be unfair, different environments and so on. It's a learning process. But I think this one stuck actually with me, that if I believe in something that's right and the best decision for the company, I fight for it. I don't accept a no from my superior.
Now that you say that, actually this comes from the book and not from what I think took away from the trip, but the Apollo 13 example in the book. I don't know if you remember that one. It goes directly in that direction, that when there was the Apollo 13 failure, the way the team at NASA reacted, and like they were really like a team that knew each other inside out. And they went into a room, they brainstormed, they came up with a new solution on how to solve this issue and implemented it. And years later, with the space shuttle program, there was an incident they could have solved if they would have reacted in the same way. But they didn't, because they were so back into their routine of like, this isn't too bad, and this didn't have that much of an effect on our vehicle and everything. But once it came back down, it was, I think it was the Columbia incident, which then with re-entry kind of exploded, and they could have prevented that from happening if the teams would not have been so comfortable with everything, but really challenge themselves and be more critical. And also each individual would like, I do not listen to my superior because I know what's the right thing to do, so I do it. And so this example was really, when I read it, kind of had goosebumps, because I was like, this is,
I still think that what a lot of Israelis do is not good for the overall company. As I said, they don't have a tendency to have long-lasting, sustainable companies. It's good for short-lived innovation, but if you have a longer-running company, you need a system which is more valid. And I think how Netflix does it, where you have like a captain actually who is doing the decision, and even if his superior is not agreeing, he is the one making the decision, not his superior, because that's what they hired them for. And I think that would be an even better way. But this is also hard to implement. What do you think actually we all need to do to be more innovative? Change our military system and have like 2 years of basic technology training forced on everyone?
Be surrounded by danger and be like living in fear. No, I think the mindset, which is kind of trivial when you think about it, but really live by not thinking about the risk and what can go wrong and why this is like a bad idea or a bad approach, but rather like, okay, what can be the benefit from it? Like, what can we gain when we continue that path? Like, right from the start. It's, I think it's the one-on-one if you want to be innovative and work in innovation, but we have the tendency to be too critical right from the start and stop good ideas before they actually can become an innovation.
That's like also a typical German thing. I think people from the US, they also dream way bigger. That's just the way they are. German will tell you about a product when they nearly finished it. And in the US, they will, even before they even started scratching it out, they will tell you how it will work and look like in the future. And they're very enthusiastic. And I think it's similar in Europe with only the people from Israel, where they just start doing it, show you the first prototype, and they really believe and stuff. So the people I met, they it's kind of a confidence, right? This Tacheles, chutzpah also comes with a kind of confidence in your own ideas. So I've met people also in Berlin. In Berlin, there are a lot of people from Israel. They sometimes even believe in ideas where I would say, this is a really stupid idea. It will never work. People tried it out before. Try something stuff. But they're so confident that they prefer to actually fail with confidence than to just hear your expert knowledge giving out to them, right? Any famous last words?
Thanks for having me. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, sure. You're always welcome also to talk about education and tech and journalism if you want next time.
Yes, I would be happy to. Maybe then Tarek also feels like he can contribute something.
Yes, we need a third person to ask stupid questions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, thanks everyone for listening. See you again next week at the same time on the same spot with your beverage of choice. Tarek and me are going to talk about the metaverse, actually. Something totally different than talking about Israel. The metaverse. So what is it actually? I have no clue. I only know what Mark Zuckerberg thinks it is. I think Ready Player One. Yeah. If you're interested, join us next week. Bye.